When I make a blank, these are 3 inches square, and I make them a ½ inch longer, so this will be 3½ inches long. That's because when I turn the ball, I'm going to end up with 2 little waist tenons where the center points were. So I'm going to mark centers, and the way I do that is I just hold the pencil in my hand, use my fingernail, kind of like a marking gauge, and as I go around here, what I'm going to end up with is a little tiny square. And I can find the center of that little tiny square fairly accurately. And these balls can be made from just about any hardwood. What I'm using on this end is a little tiny cup center. I'm just pushing with my thumb behind the bevel. It's sort of like a planing cut with a skew with the point down. Now I'm going to lay this ball out, and the first thing I'm going to do is measure the diameter. I'm going to mark the ends of that diameter. I'll leave the pencil mark. I'm going to be creating a figure that looks something like this, and it's actually an 8-sided figure, and if you look at it this way, you'll see that. So it's an octagon in 3 dimensions. So it's not really an octagon, but in cross-section. And if these little black lines go to nothing, that's the ball, okay? So the theory is, and the actual mathematics are, that the center of this face, the center of this face, and the center of this face lie on the sphere. Okay. Quickest way to find center is to take half of 75, mark it from each side, and then put a big bold mark, and that's pretty darn close to my center line. Okay. Now my diameter was 75 millimeters, so I'm going to take 20% of that because I'm real good at multiplying by 2, and that'll be 15. Okay. And I'll set these to 15. Okay, where we get this 20% or 40%, in the true mathematics, it should be 0.41 and a little bit because it's the tangent of 22½ degrees. On a small ball, if we come out 20% and leave the pencil lines, that's close enough to 41 for what we're going to do. And it's a real fast way to mark it up, and everybody can pretty much remember 0.2 or 20%. So we get that 40%. I want to get this face right here to be 40%. So if I make the tenon 40% and I connect this 40% to that 40% along that line, this will also be 40% because that's the way the mathematics works. Going to let the calipers just slide onto there and just let them slide over. Don't let them push because they'll spring open and you'll get the wrong reading. Now we want to connect these lines. I'm just taking a guess at what that looks like coming across there. Now to refine this, what I do is I look at the distance from that line to my corner, from that corner to the other corner. This looks to be a little more, so that tells me I want to take more wood off down here to get my lines to meet. So we'll start to cut and we'll try to take a little more wood off as we come down. Now they look just about even, so if I just follow that line, they're going to be even. We'll do the same thing on the other side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the center of both of those faces. And what I'll do is I'll mark halfway between the line and the next corner, okay? So I can take my tenons down a little bit more. We don't need them anymore. And I'll cut these corners away. Now I have a magic tool. It's a piece of PVC pipe. When we get a sphere, this little ring is going to fit flat. I mean, right now it's easy to see that it's up here, and we've got light coming under the sides. So I'm going to turn from this line to this line, and from that line to that line. And when I kind of get it, I'm going to put my little ring on there and see what it looks like. Okay, a little still high here and high there. It's always easier to go back and take more wood away. We keep looking for that magic way to put wood back. A little high in the middle yet. So I'm just going to do a little, almost a shear scrape. I've got the handle down. I'm letting this lower edge of the gouge contact the wood. And what's really important is to get a nice sphere right in here. So I kind of got a little dip on this side here. That's fitting on there pretty nicely, so I'll be happy with that. We'll use a wooden cup to hold this ball, and we'll turn it 90 degrees, and we'll be able to work on the other parts of the ball. And on the other end, what I'm going to use is a little point that's about a 1/2 inch diameter, covered with leather, and 2 twists of masking tape. Makes that thing fit on there real tightly. I want to make sure this center is running true. What I wanted, we started with end grain to end grain. Now we'll have the side grain. If the face grain's up, we'll have the side grain going to the centers, and then eventually we'll have the face grain going to the centers. And the advantage of having the face grain going to the centers at the end is all the growth rings come by you, and if you're sanding, you hide the sanding marks in the growth rings. Now, I lined that up as best I could with that line I put across what might be the center. Closed up calipers. I'm going to hold them to the center over the tool rest. It hits the ball. I'll get it a little higher here. Hitting the ball. Hitting the ball. Just hitting the ball. That means that's pretty good that way. Okay. And as long as I can see fuzzies, that means we got a lot of air and wood. Okay, we actually cut down to the center line on that side, so I'm just going to do a little bit of that shear scrape or scrape on here just to clean up the tool marks. Now I'm going to find my little guy here, and I'm going to go ahead and put him between centers. Now we haven't cut right there yet. The important thing is to keep the tool moving so that you don't make a flat or dig a hole. I'll do one more rotation here. Okay, I want to sand on the 45s. What I would do with the dry wood ball is I would sand it on all three axes with, usually start with 120, then 220, then 320 on all three axes. I use this and similar chucks. A guy named Bob Marshall taught me this. One thing you do have to do with this MDF is use the expansion lock with your chuck. We're going to make a hole in this ball, and we're going to pop a golf ball in here. This little item in itself makes a great gift to a golfer. I'm beginning to use the balls in some simple sculptural forms, but you can also just put a ball on a block of wood. But if you do so, you want to make sure you get yourself a nice circle to make the entry hole from. Otherwise, if you just start from out here, these 2 points are going to be high and these points low, and you won't have enough grip to keep the ball in there. I always make my hole through the face grain. If you were to make it in the end grain, you might get the ball in there. You're going to have a bigger chance of splitting it. Okay. What I do is just take my calipers and turn it around. Okay, a lot of space, not much space. Okay, here we're hitting, so I'm going to tighten these up. I'm going to do a turn all the way around. I'm opening my calipers until the ball falls through. That's the size of this ball. Now I want to close these up, so I'll close them about 1/8 of an inch, maybe not quite. I just go a quarter turn on the little wheel. Little small's okay. Little big's not good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten this face off for two reasons. One, it lets me measure my drill hole, the depth of my drill, very easily. And when I start to hollow it, it'll be easier to hollow if it's flat. So I'm just making that same exact cut that I did to rough the ball. Okay, that first cut. And I'll just... What I also have here is a template that is cut the same size as my golf ball, okay? And it says GB on there. What I found is if I use about a 3/4 depth of the golf ball's diameter, that works real well for the drill bit. So if I bend over to the center point, that gives me 3/4. And on this drill bit, I come up, I don't work with the point because I come up to where the full diameter of the bit is, okay? So now we want to hollow this out, and I want that opening to be larger inside than it is at the rim. So it's kind of an undercut. Now this part, I've tried doing this with a few different scrapers, and I always chip up the rim. And any 1/4 inch bowl gouge, any small bowl gouge will do nicely. Now, I'm going to take my template. I think it's going to be a little tight, okay? It's just a teeny bit tight. I think I'm good top to bottom, but I can see right there where this little template's bending over. So I need to undercut a little bit more. So I'm almost doing a little scrape as I make the entry there. Okay, that should be enough to make the ball fit in there nicely. Okay, see how that's real loose in there? It's not binding anywhere, so we're good. This outside edge is exceedingly sharp. You need to soften that. I use a little 400 sandpaper and I sand like this. Now here it's important to get the shavings out. There's a chance. Not big, but it might just pop in there. There's the ball. Now, I think it's going to go in okay. It's a little tight, but I think it's going to go in. But that's basically the ball in the ball. What I would do is I would totally finish it however I wanted it before I hollowed it.